Kenya's mining sector is entering a critical phase as the country seeks to convert its mineral wealth into long-term sustainable capital flows. With the 2016 Mining Act now firmly anchoring governance reforms, attention is shifting to value addition, environmental compliance, human capital development, and climate-resilient operations, just as global demand for critical minerals accelerates. I spoke to Nashon Adero, Dean of the School of Mines and Engineering at Taita Taveta University, for more.
In Africa, we are very well endowed with the G for geology, the minerals, critical and strategic minerals, one continent claiming at least a third of the total known global reserves of minerals. And that is a disproportionate share because we have more than 3 continents in the world. But we spoke earlier on the G for governance. And we need governance because if you look at national development visions and global visions, we always talk of human rights to decent living. And we cannot achieve decent living without the minerals, the materials, the metals we need for consumer electronics, construction, and for green transition. Now, in terms of governance, we do need proper policy, regulatory and legislative frameworks. And in Kenya, I'm happy to say that a good effort has already been demonstrated in coming up with Africa's arguably the most modern mining act, what I classify as the 4th generation of mining law reforms in Africa. And this one emphasizes inclusion in the mining sector, including artisanal miners and recognizing them as legitimate stakeholders in the sector. It also includes ensuring predictability in governance and coming up with accurate surveying and mapping for management and land governance in the mining sector. So this is already a good score, and we even have environmental protection bonds to ensure that after mining, we rehabilitate the mining sites. One case has been demonstrated in Kenya very well, the Kwale-based titanium mining site, which has now been rehabilitated, and the indigenous trees that were removed for mining have been replanted. So I would say that we are already seeing some good progress, and governance is key if you have to deliver on sustainable mining and inclusive economic empowerment. Thank you.
Policies then drive revenue here, Nashon. So to secure long-term capital, Kenya needs stable revenue. So how will local refining capacity, coupled with long-term offtake agreements with global EV and even defense firms, maximize the return on investment from our rare earth deposits?
Of course, when you talk of rare earth minerals, you have hit spot on a key area, which is also a hot geopolitical issue, but we need to turn our countries in Africa from hotspots or hotbeds of exploitative geopolitical equations to seedbeds of local revenue generation. And what we need to ensure is that we can sustainable public-private partnerships with agreements that are keen on ensuring local value addition, empowering local stakeholders. And at Taita Taveta University, which is Kenya's premier university of mining education, we produce mining engineers for the country. And we need to ensure their meaningful engagement, they have the capacity, the exposure, and through this, they are a critical part of the human capital that we need to transform outcomes. So when we are talking of capital, we must not forget human capital. Then we have the funding that we need, and this is where we need to have very good scripts as we negotiate for foreign direct investments, for public-private partnerships. So that is the economic side of it, but don't forget the political side of it. And I would say this is number one, political goodwill. If you refer to the history of sustainable development in 1987, the Brundtland report, there was a very conscious and intentional definition of sustainable development as one that rests on political goodwill, and it's not a steady state. We have to cater for randomness, and we have to ensure that we work at it as a dynamic challenge. So the political goodwill, the political equation is very important, and this is where we as trainers at universities, we as scholars and researchers come in, and we need that political goodwill for inclusion in policy development, in advisory committees, so that we can come up with the best models which ensure both inclusive economic empowerment, local value addition, and resting on that political goodwill to make us the key players in transforming outcomes through the mining sector.
Yes.
Thank you.
And then this brings in the aspect of environmental compliance, that is ESG. Often it is seen as pure cost. So then how do strict ESG mandates, how can they, improve the risk-adjusted profitability for large-scale investors in Kenya's mining sector?
To transform outcomes in the mining sector, we need to focus on large-scale mining. It's capital-intensive, yes, but in the long term, that is where we'll get a critical mass of outputs so that we can generate meaningful outcomes. And when it comes to environmental compliance, it would seem high upfront cost at first and expensive, but in the long term, you get the benefits because mining has to be discussed within the broader realm of sustainability. And when we talk of sustainable development, we have to consider the social aspects, the economic aspects, and the ecological aspects. So environmental compliance will ensure that even as we mine, we invest in other sectors, such as agriculture, because that is the true essence of sustainability. When we talk of sustainability, it is about intergenerational capital exchange. And as I explained at the beginning, this capital is not merely financial capital. We have social capital, we have the natural capital, we have human capital, and we need all this. So we need to invest in other sectors so that after mining, we can have communities still relying on agriculture, relying on sustainable forestry, agroforestry, and in the other sectors of the economy, human capital development that can ensure that we have the big picture and broad focus that is in sync with the true essence of sustainable development.
Shocks are a threat when it comes to operational stability here. So what is the net present value, that is the NPV, of investing in green infrastructure and also digital tools?
Yeah, when you talk of the net present value, of course, we have to consider the payback period. We have to consider changes in markets, interest rates, discounting rates. And if you take a good example, if you have solar diesel hybrid for small scale mining, that can cut costs by more than half. So when we talk of the payback period, some cases have shown 10 years or less, and we have very good examples even in the green building sector, 7 years or less. So we can talk of about a decade, and if we are to be serious with the mineral wealth that we have and manage them sustainably, then we can say that talking of intergenerational responsibility, 10 years is not a long time.